Hey there and welcome to Open Day Live. If you're just joining us, we're happy to have you. In this session, we're going to be talking to a couple of friends of mine, actually. We've got David Ware and Chris Hodge, and they're two incredible members of our creative team here at Hillsong Church. So, guys, I thought we'd just ask a couple of fun questions to get to know you a little bit.
Yes.
So, Chris, where are you from and how long have you lived in Sydney?
Well, I'm from the U.S. I'm from a state called Connecticut, and I've been in Sydney for about 5 years now.
Accent still going strong, sounding good. And David, where are you from?
Originally I was born in Fiji, but I grew up in New Zealand. And then when I was a teenager, moved here to Australia. And so I've been here for the last 16, 17 years.
Awesome. Yeah. Favourite place to hang out in Sydney? So many choices.
There's a cool spot in the city. It's called Tram Sheds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love food. Yeah, in Glebe.
What about you, David?
I love Bondi. Bondi Beach is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, if you could have dinner with anyone, living or dead, who would it be?
I don't know. I think I would. This is going to be really random, but I'd love to have dinner with Tupac Shakur.
I don't find it that random knowing you, but yeah.
I'd probably have to go with MLK.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Change the world. So.
Yep.
That's nice.
The first person that popped into my head was Whitney Houston, but it definitely wouldn't be who I'd want to have dinner with. I think it just... I've been listening to her a lot recently, so... okay, what would you spend your last $20 on?
Food.
Yeah, a double quarter pounder meal with chicken sauce from McDonald's. But not American McDonald's, Australian McDonald's.
So much better.
It's a little bit, yeah.
So much better. What about you? Would it be Macca's? Or would you hit Barluca in the city and kill a
Yeah,
burger?
Barluca. Got to go with some burgers and hot wings. That's my thing.
Okay, bit of a serious one. What's one goal you're determined to achieve in your lifetime?
I've been thinking lots about legacy, you know. Not much follows you into the afterlife, but the afterlife. Not much follows you into heaven.
Also known as the afterlife.
Yeah, I know. It just sounded so weird saying it. Not much follows you after this life, but
Yeah.
I think what stays behind, I think, speaks a lot about you. And so I think with my kids, with the people that I get to lead or pastor and friends that I have, I think, who you have on your deathbed, that's your legacy. And so you should spend a lot of time investing into that, because when you're gone, that's kind of what matters.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Can you top that, or...?
That's right. Do I have to go, or did we nail it?
He's just jumping up.
You want to take his too? You've been thinking about legacy a little bit as well? Or?
I mean, I feel like, this life that we live, personally, might sound a little bit selfish, but a lot of my goals, I want to be healthy mentally, physically, socially, spiritually. And I feel like from that will flow to my family and the people that I lead.
That's awesome.
And I'll in turn leave a legacy that people can then build on. So
yeah,
that's
awesome.
That's okay, David. People may recognise you from Hillsong Worship. You tour a lot with them. Also, you play an integral role here at Hillsong Church in Sydney.
Yeah.
Favourite worship song?
At the moment?
Just in general.
Just in general, it's funny because my favourite worship song now, the same guy who led that is the same guy who led my favourite all-time worship song. And that my favourite of all-time worship song is still by Hillsong. But I wasn't part of Hillsong when that came out. So,
yeah.
So that really changed my life, that song. And then there's a song that's being released this year, pretty soon. I don't know when this is being played, but called As You Find Me from Hillsong United, and Tulele is leading it. It's like both those songs have been really life-changing for me.
I remember when I found out that you sang Rhythms of Grace. That was I loved that song when I was in New Zealand, and we used to sing it in our worship team all the time. And then I got here and found out that you actually sang it, and I was so stoked. Yeah. And then actually, you will have seen John Davis, who is hosting some of our other sessions today. He's actually got a tattoo with Rhythms of Grace lyrics on it as well, and I found that really funny too. Just a little bit of an insight. So David, how long have you been involved with music, just in general?
Yeah, I grew up in music. My parents were pastors, and I remember first jumping on the drum kit when I was 5 years old. and by the time I was 5.5, I was like playing in church.
Actually?
Yeah, it was very small.
4 on the floor?
Yeah,
Killing
very
it.
small church. And I remember figuring out different patterns when I was a kid on the drums and just feeling like an absolute champion.
Yeah.
So to this day, you know, drums have always been my main instrument. But then about 12 years ago, actually, when I became part of Hillsong, I'd always kind of held a tune. Like I always knew I could kind of sing. But it wasn't until I became...
It's nothing to write home about.
I'm being honest. It wasn't until I became part of Hillsong that some people actually started to invest and say, you know, like, I think you're a singer.
Yeah.
And I think you should work on it. And yes, that's what I get to do to this day is sing and lead. And I get to do some crazy things with some awesome people.
Yeah. When was the last time you played drums in church?
Yeah, it was the first weekend.
Bring it back.
It was the first weekend we were Hillsong.
Really?
Yeah, so we started this new location and I played drums as a part of the worship team. And I remember straight after the campus, the location pastor walking up to me and going, "Hey, so you're never going to play drums again." But we do need more like guy singers. So would you be up for stepping up to that? And something in me, yeah. And if I wanted my own way, I would have said, you know, like, oh, I'm a drummer. But because I just wanted to fill the need, I thought, oh, why not? And yeah, so that kind of opened the door to create greater and crazy things.
Yeah. So over the years, you've obviously been doing it for quite some time. How have you managed to find fresh inspiration for yourself creatively within a worship role? I know sometimes we sing the same songs and you're doing church every week. So how do you find fresh inspiration? Yeah,
I mean, just this past weekend we did a communion item, and this college student, who's only like first year, second semester, his name's Alex. He sung the communion item in the CC, which is our biggest platform in our church. And I just remember seeing him and watching him sing and feeling like, I remember what that felt like to be the new guy and to be so nervous and to be like, oh gosh, I'm up here with my heroes, and he was up there with JD and with you. Yeah. Am I your hero? No, I'm saying that's what, you remember what it was like being on stage? I'm saying that's what he would say. And you know what? That really like challenged me and inspired me to look at our platform and look at what we do as Hillsong and as church creative team in a fresh way. So at the moment, it's just seeing these fresh people rise up and young people rise up and do awesome things, and it keeps you young when you can see them, you know, you can see them struggling with it, or you see them, you know, killing it or getting wins under their belt. Yeah. And so at the moment, I just love that. I just love seeing our young people come through, and keeps you young, keeps you inspired, keeps you creative. I love that. So what are some challenges that you've come into contact with creativity in the church? Yeah, I guess because, you know, there's this term called the church bubble. And so you've got a community of people, and a lot of the times we get so comfortable in that we often don't look for inspiration or look for community outside of it. Yeah. And so I think the trap door with that, as much as it's safe, the trap door with it is creativity either becomes stagnant or it just becomes repetitive. And so it's hard to get fresh ideas in as a church community because you're in this bubble. And so what we always try and do with whenever we are thinking of like communion ideas or openers for conferences or tour, you know, lists, is trying to find fresh people to bounce off, or even just finding inspiration that's not in the bubble. I think it's really important. We're all created in God's image, even people that aren't necessarily saved. And so their creativity is not negated because they're not Christians, but you can learn from people because they are creative and because they're created by God. And so me personally, I love stepping outside of the bubble and going, okay, what is out there that we haven't latched onto yet creatively? Yeah. I love that. Yeah. That's awesome. You've pretty much answered my follow-up question. So something that David actually gets to do a lot of in college is come in and teach some of our creative classes within the worship music stream, which we're really grateful for. So thanks for doing that. And another part of David's role is actually mentoring young worship leaders or up-and-coming worship leaders, I guess, people that they're wanting to really help and help grow and challenge in their journey. And Chris, you attended Hillsong College when? 2014, okay. Okay, and graduated 3 years later? Yeah, in 2017. Awesome. About a year and a half ago. You did pastoral, didn't you? I did pastoral the whole way through. Right, but you're a singer and a musician? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, he definitely is. He's being modest. He's being very modest. So did you grow up playing music? Well, my family, like Dave, like my family's
musical. My mom sings, my dad sings, he writes, my parents lead a church back home. And so as far as I can remember, we all kind of grew up around music. My brother is probably, I think he's a genius musically, and all my cousins. And so I got into music a bit late. I was like that kid who didn't really know like what his thing was in life. But I think when I turned like about 13, I started playing drums, filling gaps in church.
Yeah.
And then I got into keys. And then later, like when I was 18 or something, I started singing.
So for you, what was it like being trained and mentored by David?
Yeah, it's cool. To this day, Dave's like key. And I feel like my growth as a creative on our team. And the word coach is kind of what I would feel like you are to me and us. Like you said, like we get to serve along like the people who are making it happen globally. And then for you guys to just put trust and say, have a go. And something you've been really good at is giving feedback. Right. Like we'll be serving on a Sunday or wherever. And then as soon as we get off, I'll have a text from Dave saying that was awesome or, whatever.
Here's the link to the service. Have a look at it.
We got that.
We got that the other
last week. Yeah. But I think
so good.
That's the easiest way to give feedback. Hey, I don't understand anything. Just watch the link. Just watch it back. You'll get it.
You have to watch it. Just sit through it. Like, oh. But that's been really good for me. I feel like my development, just having that backing as well as that feedback, is cool.
David, would you have some advice for creative students coming to Hillsong Church? I mean, you've seen a lot of students come and a lot of alumni graduate. Yeah. What would you say for someone who's considering coming, but also maybe have applied? Excuse me. They've applied and they're going to come in the next intake. What's some advice to help the transition into our Hillsong Church creative team?
Yeah, I would say, just be up for the God adventure. I think about when I was 20 years old, fresh to our church, got the opportunity to play the drums, and then it kind of got taken away from me. I imagined if I didn't have enough wisdom to just be obedient in that season, or just go with what was needed in that season, where I might be right now, or where I might not be right now. If I'd held so tightly to like, no, I'm a drummer, or whatever it is that you could be. You could be like, no, I'm a worship leader, or no, I'm a pastor, or no, I'm a graphics operator, whatever it is that you seem to be good at. I think if you just give the reins over to God and trust that He's put you on the path that you're on for a reason, you can, number one, you'll always learn something that you never knew. Number two, it actually builds your relationship with God, because the relationship with God is never been about clarity. It's always been about trust.
Right.
And so God will always put you in situations where there is a lack of clarity, so that you go, God, I just need you. And the third thing is you'll always, Pastor Brian says it all the time, you never come second by putting God first. And I know with my story, that's exactly been the case, and there's been hardships. It's not all been easy, but I can look back at the last 10 to 12 years of my life and go, man, God's been good. Every single time that things were unclear, or there was a tragedy, or things didn't go my way, sooner or later, God goes, I did it for this reason, and look where you are now because of it. And so I would just say, if you're coming, just take the restrictions off, take the expectations off, lift your expectation in terms of your faith and what you expect God to do, but don't put the parameters, let God set the parameters, because who knows, once you come here for 3 years or beyond, where God will put you, or where He'll place you, because you've decided to be obedient and to just actually go on this God adventure. So I think that's really important for people to really live out and to really make a priority when they come.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, David. Thank you, Chris, for your time. Really appreciate the wisdom that you guys have shared.
Of course.
Thank you so much for joining this session at Open Day Live. We hope that you've enjoyed it. If you want to download some content that's available from this session, you can just check out the link at the end of this video. And if you're coming to join us in the creative streams, we'll see you soon. But stick around and check out the next session that's coming out.